Hello there, America. And, hello Canada, I guess. Look, we all know you're up there, we've seen the maps. Tonight, we're diving into a truly bonkers hypothetical. What if Canada ditched the whole Queen on the money thing and joined the US of A? Could it actually happen? Would it be a beautiful union of maple syrup and freedom fries? Or would it be a bigger disaster than that time Nickelback won a Juno Award? Let's find out. Now I know what you're thinking. John, this is ridiculous. Canada would never become a state. And you're probably right. But just for fun, let's imagine a world where Canadians are so desperate for decent bagels and affordable healthcare that they're willing to pledge allegiance to the Stars and Stripes. Stranger things have happened, right? I mean, have you seen our current political climate? Anything is possible. So, how would one go about adding an entire country to an existing one? It's not as simple as Canada just rocking up to the White House with a suitcase and a toque, ready to move in. The US Constitution, that dusty old document we mostly ignore, lays out a pretty clear process for admitting new states. Spoiler alert, it involves a lot of paperwork and even more political maneuvering. First, Canada would need to get its own house in order. We're talking a full-blown national identity crisis, folks. They'd need to draft a state constitution, which, knowing Canadians, would probably include universal health care and mandatory politeness lessons. Then comes the hard part, convincing the US Congress to let them in. And let's be real, Congress can barely agree on what day it is, let alone whether to admit a giant new state full of, well, Canadians. Finally, the president would have to sign off on the deal. And if you think negotiating NAFTA was tough, just imagine the Twitter storms that would erupt over maple syrup tariffs and whether hockey would replace baseball as America's pastime. Alright, let's talk money, honey. Merging the US and Canadian economies would be like trying to mix oil and maple syrup, messy, unpredictable, and potentially disastrous for your pancakes. On the one hand, Canada has a lot to offer. Vast natural resources, a highly educated workforce, and a surprisingly robust lumber industry. On the other hand, they also have socialized medicine and a baffling obsession with ketchup-flavored potato chips, so there's that. The US, as always, would be the biggest winner in this scenario. Imagine a land stretching from the Arctic Circle to the Gulf of Mexico, all under one flag and one currency. We'd have access to Canada's oil reserves, which would be great news for everyone except, you know, the environment. Plus, think of all the new Tim Hortons locations. We'd be drowning in donuts and double-doubles. But it wouldn't be all sunshine and Timbits. Canada's economy is heavily reliant on trade with the US, so becoming a state could disrupt existing agreements and throw a wrench into their whole deal. Plus, there's the issue of currency. Would Canada adopt the US dollar, or would we all be forced to start carrying around those weird, colorful bills with the Queen on them? Frankly, I'm not sure my wallet could handle the excitement. Now for the really important stuff, culture. Would Canada be forced to trade in its beloved hockey for the thrill of monster trucks and competitive eating? Would Celine Dion be relegated to singing the national anthem at tractor pulls? The horror, the horror. In all seriousness, merging two distinct cultures would inevitably lead to some growing pains. Canadians are known for their politeness, their love of poutine, and their uncanny ability to survive sub-zero temperatures. Americans, well, we're known for our enthusiasm. And by enthusiasm, I mean our tendency to be really, really loud about everything. The good news is that Canadians and Americans already share a lot of cultural similarities. We both love bad reality TV, we both have a deep-seated fear of healthcare bills, and we both secretly think Ryan Reynolds is a national treasure. Don't tell Blake Lively. So maybe, just maybe, we could learn to coexist peacefully. Or at least agree to disagree about whether pineapple belongs on pizza. Section 5. From friendly neighbors to family, a historical perspective. Okay, let's take a trip down memory lane, shall we? The US and Canada have a long and complicated history, full of awkward family reunions, passive-aggressive politeness, and the occasional border dispute. We've been allies, rivals, and sometimes even frenemies. But through it all, we've managed to maintain a relatively peaceful coexistence, which is more than I can say for some of my neighbors. I'm looking at you, Gary, with your leaf blower and your complete disregard for noise ordinances. There was that one time in 1812 when we tried to invade Canada, and, well, it didn't go so well. Turns out those Canadians are tougher than they look, especially when they're defending their homeland from a bunch of overconfident Americans. We learned our lesson though, and have mostly kept our hands to ourselves ever since. These days, the US and Canada enjoy a close relationship based on mutual respect, shared values, and a healthy dose of good-natured ribbing. We trade goods, we share Netflix passwords, and we occasionally borrow each other's celebrities, looking at you again, Ryan Reynolds. So, the idea of Canada becoming a state isn't entirely outlandish. It would just be a continuation of our long and storied history together. Just, with more paperwork. Section 6, the Great White North Star-Spangled Edition, Potential Benefits for Canada. Let's be real, joining the US wouldn't be all bad for Canada. Think about it, they'd finally have a say in American politics. No more watching from the sidelines as we elect another reality TV star president. They could finally make their voices heard and maybe, just maybe, inject some much-needed sanity into our political system. Then there's the small matter of military protection. Canada's military is, shall we say, adorable. But let's face it, they wouldn't last 5 minutes against a real threat. Joining the US would give them access to the most powerful military in the world, which would be great news for everyone except maybe those Canadians who are really, really passionate about peace. And let's not forget about the economic benefits. Canada would have access to a much larger market for its goods and services, which could lead to increased trade and economic growth. Plus, they'd finally be able to get rid of those pesky Canadian dollars and start using real money, like the rest of us. Section 7. Oh, Canada! Your healthcare system is making us look bad. Potential benefits for the USA. Now, America, before you start chanting USA, USA, and polishing your bald eagles, let's talk about what Canada brings to the table. And I'm not just talking about poutine and Ryan Reynolds. Although, seriously, those are two very compelling arguments. First and foremost, healthcare. Canada has universal healthcare, which means everyone gets covered, regardless of their income or employment status. Imagine a world where you don't have to choose between paying your rent and going to the doctor. Sounds pretty good, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I'd gladly trade a few bald eagles for some peace of mind when it comes to medical bills. But it's not just about healthcare. Canada also has a highly educated workforce, a strong social safety net, and a deep commitment to multiculturalism. These are all things that could benefit the US and make us a more just and equitable society. Plus, they have those cool flags with the maple leaf on them. We could totally rock those. Section 8. From sea to shining sea to even more sea potential drawbacks of a transcontinental merger. Okay, I know what you're thinking. John, this is all well and good, but what about the downsides? Surely there are some drawbacks to this whole Canada joining the US thing, right? And you'd be right. There are always downsides. This is America, after all. We love a good downside. For starters, there's the issue of representation. Canada is a big country, and adding them to the US would significantly shift the balance of power in Congress. Suddenly, those sparsely populated provinces would have as much political clout as California or Texas, which might not sit well with some folks. And let's not even get started on the Electoral College. Let's just say it would get a lot more interesting, and by interesting, I mean potentially catastrophic. Then there's the cultural clash. Sure, Canadians and Americans are pretty similar, but we also have our differences. Would Americans embrace Canadian politeness, or would we just bulldoze over it with our trademark American enthusiasm? Would Canadians be forced to give up their beloved poutine and Tim Hortons for hamburgers and Starbucks? These are important questions, people. Section 9. So, will we be seeing Justin Trudeau on Mount Rushmore anytime soon? So, there you have it. The potential benefits and drawbacks of Canada becoming the 51st state. Is it a good idea? A terrible idea? A hilarious idea that would never happen in a million years but would be incredibly entertaining to watch unfold? You decide. Personally, I think it's highly unlikely that Canada will be joining the US anytime soon. They seem pretty happy with their free healthcare, their sensible gun laws, and their prime minister who can actually form a coherent sentence. But hey, stranger things have happened. I mean, we did elect a reality TV star president, so anything is possible, right? In the meantime, let's just appreciate our friendly neighbors to the north for who they are. A nation of polite, hockey-loving, maple syrup-guzzling people who somehow managed to survive 6 months of winter without turning into popsicles. And who knows, maybe one day, we'll be welcoming them into the fold as our 51st state. Or maybe not. Either way, it's been fun speculating. Oh, and since you made it this far in the video, I would really appreciate a thumbs up and subscribing for more spine-tingling videos. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm off to go find some poutine. Thanks for watching.